So welcome, thank you very much everyone for joining us on this webinar. It's with myself, Paul Holmes-Higgin. I'm the Chief Product Officer at Flowable. Also, I'm joined by Micha, Kiener, who's a CTO. Neither of us are particularly formal people, even though we're sat here in fancy shirts for once. So we'll be fairly informal and hopefully not get too technical, as sometimes we can do. And what we're going to talk about is give you an update, a bit about Flowable as a business, but also about where we're going with the product, give you an idea of the products that we have available. But we're really going to focus in on one of our newest products, Flowable Engage, where we're seeing our customers use that for sort of focusing in on customer engagement in innovative, future-looking ways. So let me get started with the presentation here. And what we're going to do is I'm going to go through some slides. I'll try and get through them reasonably quickly because I know slides aren't the most exciting thing that people want to see, but it hopefully will give you some context around what we're talking about. And then Micha will take over and actually show you that what I've been talking about is real and not just me getting excited about things that could happen potentially in the future. So let's get going here. So yeah, the agenda. What we're going to talk about first is Flowable, the project. Give the background to what Flowable, where it started, and then talk about Flowable, the company, what's been happening in the last year. Then talk about the product portfolio. And again, this is really just to give you all context to what we're doing and why we're doing it. And then we'll focus in on chat specifically and the Flowable Engage product. So the project, Flowable was started as a project, an open source project. It was a fork of activity made by myself and the activity developers. We did this in 2016. And as an open source project, it's already doing very well. It's got a very active forum. We're getting lots of contributions. And it is moving forward, very dynamically and very actively. And as an open source project, of course, it is very technical. So this is why I've got lots of acronyms here. If you don't know what these are, then don't worry, you're not expected to. So the Flowable project is all around providing high performance, high scale process engines to support BPMN 2.0 standard, CMMN 1.1 standard, and the DMN 1.1 standard. BPMN is the standard for business process representations. CMMN is an open standard for case management, and DMN is one for business rules, decision management notation. So these engines are open source, and we've been working on them for many years. Sort of, as I said, it was a fork from activity. So it's had many years of real world use, but we've been really moving the technology forward since we did the fork. We did release very recently, a few weeks ago, 6.3. And this is the fastest BPMN engine this team has ever produced in their lifetime as working on BPM engines, and the team have been working on 3 different generations of BPM engine. And also it marked a switching out of the experimental phase, the out in the wild, getting development and sort of feedback from people trying out the CMMN engine. 6.3 switched that out of experimental phase to a fully supported engine that we have full confidence with. So there is an open source project. It's very active. It's very much core to what we in Flowable believe in, and is very much going to remain something that we're very supportive of, and will continue to be open source and very liberal open source. Now, moving on to the company. So Flowable, the company today, is spread around the globe. We have a number of different offices. Most of our bodies are focused within Europe, but we are expanding in the US and also Asia very actively at the moment. And that's come about from a growth that's really been fueled by the bringing together of 3 streams. So as I talked about, Flowable as a brand started as an open source project. So there's the open source project and team behind that, which have been working closely right from 2010 with the Adorasware company, who built a case management platform on top of the open source process engine. And and also a sister company alongside them, Mimacom, who've been going since 10 years before that as well, as a systems integrator. And what we've done, we basically brought these three streams together to provide us with everything that we need for our customers to provide a strong open source core, a wider, more professional commercial product suite and offering, and then a sort of services environment that allows us to integrate those products and configure them to fit in within our customers. Because one thing we know as BPM vendors is that every BPM installation involves plugging into a customer's infrastructure. So having the right people that can support our customers in doing that is very important. And that gives us an organization that, as I said, is spread around the globe. It's about 300 people and is continuing to grow. So we are very much in a growth phase and very much switching into putting a lot behind Flowable as a brand and Flowable as a company or an organization behind that. Now, in terms of the products, we've got really three levels of product, and they build on top of each other. And I'm going to a couple of slides in following ones on each of these. So Flowable Core is a commercial offering around support and maintenance for the open source engines. So if people are using the open source engines, they want it in production and they want the insurance and safety of support for production use 24/7, bug fixing, and hot fixes, patch fixes, things like this, they can get a support contract from us around Flowable Core. Then Flowable Platform is a full case management environment that uses the core engines within it, but gives you a lot more capabilities around that. And then building on top of Flowable Platform is Flowable Engage, which adds in chat as a channel of communicating beyond the standard platform capabilities. I said the Flowable Core offering, the open source engines, there's a large community, rich APIs, and you can do an awful lot with those core engines already. And we do have customers that use the core engines independently embedded in their own applications, as well as having Platform or Engage for other solutions. One of the things we are going to be making available in the next month or two is an add-on to Core, which brings some of the design functionality from the platform and as an add-on to the core engines. And we're calling that the Extender Pack. And what it is, it gives richer forms design and an embeddable forms engine that can be used with the open source engines. It also has enhanced process and case design and decision management design things within that. So that's something to look out for us coming within the next couple of months from there. Platform, the role of platform, what we're looking for here is something that allows our customers to build case applications, process applications very rapidly. So there's a combination of additional business tools, enhancing those core engines and modeling your business, as well as some easy to put together user application screens and forms and things like this to deliver process applications in a very quick and dynamic way. Then building on top of platform, you can extend the core platform by having additional add-ons, which give you things like content management capabilities, document viewing, document annotation, integration, fine-grained security. So that there is a core platform, but there's the ability to add additional functionality on top of that. Then we have Flowable Engage. Now, this does build upon the capabilities of platform, but really is an application, a product in its own right. And what it does, it has a full dynamic real-time chat environment and integrations into other chat tools, but it is backed by the process capabilities and case capabilities of the full platform within it. And it really is the Engage product that we want to focus on today. And one of the things we're seeing, particularly in the banking sector, but it's not just banking, there are other sectors we're seeing this in as well, healthcare and also government, where there's a lot of interest in customer engagement. And it's all about how do we actually work more closely, more intimately, in a more personal way with our customers, or whether they're clients of a bank or citizens of government or co-workers, colleagues within a distributed organization. We're going to focus on talking about what we're seeing from a majority of our customers in the banking sector, where For example, you have a part of the business which is to do with relationship management with high wealth individuals within the bank. You may have a digital desk which is supporting those clients. You may have relationship managers working with expert advisors, wanting to talk and get engage more dynamically with the customers, but all the time you want to be able to be sure you've got compliant conversations going on, and that can mean that they're fully auditable, but also that any processes and things that are done as part of those conversations, they are actually following due process and things like this. Of course, what the clients are looking for this day and age is they want to be communicating by chat. Whether that's with WeChat, with web chat, with Facebook Messenger, a bunch of other instant messaging type of clients that are available these days, or it can be with our customers' own bespoke mobile application. So we do have a mobile application that can be embedded into our clients' mobile apps. And that's the way the customers want to engage. They want to be chatting in a very informal, natural way to the bank. And of course, the bank wants to have that going through, making sure that all the tools and capabilities of the bank are available through that sort of single channel right through to the back office services. And it is very important for our customers that they can apply all their accepted standard models for managing compliance and best practice to this new conversation channel. So, where they've defined processes in BPMN or cases or got decisions, business rules around how things should happen and what should happen when and exactly what needs to be done in what order and what sequence. People want to take those standard models and bring them into these new conversation channels. And this is where Flowable Engage comes in, because it allows it's all about augmenting the person-to-person communication. This isn't all about creating automatic machine chatbots that respond to clients. This is really about engaging and making sure that you have a very personal interaction with your clients, but also that those can be augmented and enriched to make sure that best practice is followed and compliance. And what you can do is you can create chatbots, digital assistants that have behaviors that can be defined through your standard business process models. So you can define a case model, process model that describe how a chatbot can interact within a conversation. And that can be to do things such as to bring in a structured questionnaire or form filling, form flow into a conversation. So it may be that as part of some interaction you need to follow some due process to achieve certain steps. Then you can bring that process into the chat interaction, and you can decide whether the relationship manager is maybe filling in the form for the client, or whether the client is filling it in themselves, or you're doing this collaborative data filling where it's a combination of the client and the customer relationship manager working together on that. And the other really nice thing is that you can use all the power and capabilities you have that you expect from a BPM or a case management system, and bring those into the same environment. So having ad hoc tasks to do. So if I wanted to create a to-do or something like this, these are very natural things to do within BPM case management systems. Or if I want a task to be created automatically or a process to be triggered automatically as part of a conversation, I can do that. Or setting up reminders. I want to, sort of schedule a portfolio review in a month's time, and there's a particular process that needs to be done at the start of a portfolio review. I can do all of that, and that's all triggered and exploiting the power and capabilities of our standard BPM and case management back end. And one of the things that we think about which makes us different in terms of the way we've working with chat and conversations is that we see conversation as a form of case management. When you start a conversation, you can think of it as a case. And what we allow you to do is model that conversation as a case. And what that allows you to do is describe what type of processes, what type of interactions you would expect to have within different conversations. So if there are certain security controls, if there are certain processes that are relevant for certain classes of conversation, you can actually model that quite explicitly. So it can assist someone within a chat to initiate something very quickly that you've already defined what may be appropriate at a particular stage within a conversation. But it also brings in this whole mix of ad hoc process, ad hoc tasks, as well as formally triggered processes and formally triggered tasks. And one of the other things that this new communication channel using chat will exploit is the power that we have within Flowable, which is one of our distinguishing features, is very dynamic processes. One of the things that we have that other BPMs aren't able to do is this unique capability to inject new processes into active, already existing processes. So if you want to suddenly add in something like a credit check or a security check within a process, that's something that our process engine allows you to do completely dynamically and completely predictably. Now, in the case of a conversation and a chat, the human conversation is always full of digressions and sort of veering away and starting on another topic and then coming back. So this dynamic capability that our process engine fits very naturally within this new sort of conversational way of interacting with process. One of the other things, just forward looking in terms of how you can start to bring in more intelligent assistance within a conversation environment, is starting to think about automating in intelligence. And of course, there's a lot of talk about things like AI and everything else. What we're working with, and this is something which is experimental with our customers at the minute, is how we can learn from the conversations that are going on. So the benefit of having these mix of unstructured conversation with formal and structured conversations is we can start to see behaviors, start to see how things could be looked at, and maybe start to make predictions around what we expect to happen at a certain point in a conversation, what has happened in the past, to provide assistance with but either the client or to say the relationship manager that's going on there, and even to do things like dynamically change the behavior of the process for a particular instance in mind, or change and adapt the overall processes if that's what we want to do. And that's part of what the demonstration we'll show you later is how we're introducing some AI into the capabilities that Flowable offers. And when we talk about bringing intelligence into the processes, we think of it in 3 different levels, and we can support those today. But it's worthwhile thinking about these as they are 3 very different ways of talking about intelligence. And the most basic one is actually when you have business process management, you think of this as there is a formal process, it's defined, and you cannot veer away from that formal process. So one level of bringing intelligence into process is actually to allow the user to make dynamic changes. So as I said, what the uniques that Flowable has is this dynamic process injection. At a point, you can allow a user to say, actually, I know I should be doing something at this stage, and I want to introduce a sub process to this. If I need to introduce a few extra steps here, I can do that now. So that allows the user intelligence to be injected into the formal process. That is one level, is just allow the user to inject their intelligence into the business process. The next level is really where you're getting the machine to start trying to help you, where you can look at the historical things that have been going on, and you can define a predictable way of saying, by design, I know this process is happening, and I want to see that at certain points, I want to offer up assistance here. So at this point, I've seen in the past, we've done, this is like a super clippy from Microsoft or whatever. It's trying to help you, but in a friendly way. But this is something that we've seen happen before. Do you want me to do this for you just as a time saver? Do you want to replay this that we've done before? Or do you want me to actually change a rule in the business table, because we're seeing this happen time and time again, so I can change it for you if you give me the instruction to do that. So it's really gaining intelligence from user-assisted adaptive learning. The big step up is the one that, that's what you see all the marketing noise and excitement about, is machine learning, the AI, that the robots are taking over the world. Can we use machine learning to drive change? And this is something which, as I say, to us, we're experimenting with our customers around this. And it's where you're looking at what has happened in the past and actually trying to make inferences about what that means. So we've always seen certain things happen. I'm looking at this and I'm seeing, and I'm getting confidence from my machine learning algorithms that this is quite predictable now. So I can actually start to give you advice within the process, say within a chat, saying, do you want me to do this at this stage because this is what's happened in the past? But we can even take this even further and say, well, if I'm allowed to, I can actually make changes to the overall process based on what is happening from my machine learning algorithms. There seems to be a rule around this. Let me change this for you, and this will become something that the process overall learns from dynamically. Again, it's all within the constraints of what we allow and what we say is allowable for a process to change within the context of that. So this is giving you a bit of context in terms of where we're coming from as Flowable as a business, where we're coming from, our context of the products, and where we're taking things in terms of trying to make process personal, and customer engagement, user engagement is a very key part of that, and how to make that adaptive and dynamic, and looking forward to how we can exploit some of the technologies that are becoming more and more acceptable and available and understandable into all of this. So what we're going to do is I'm going to hand over to Micha very soon to give you a demo, to show you the stuff I've been talking about is not something that just looks nice on slides. And what we're going to take you through is a demo scenario. This is one of the banking scenarios. This is a scenario that's actually in use with customers today. It's slightly simplified because some of the processes are actually more complicated. Even some of the simple processes are more complicated in reality. But we've got a high wealth client who wants to talk to their relationship manager using their chat app. And as part of that conversation, they work out that there is a particular form process that needs to be filled. So they're going to work through a questionnaire and a form filling process as they go through that chat. And we'll show how that gets blended into the unstructured chat. And we'll also show that that's all defined, that interaction can be defined with the standard BPMN tools that you expect from a BPM and case management vendor. And then also just to give you a bit of a forward look, we'll show you an example of where we're using the very dynamic capabilities of Flowable with machine learning to say, well, we've got a process defined where there's a user task that a user within the organization is being asked to make a decision here. And we're going to use machine learning to say, well, at a certain point of confidence, we're going to replace that user task, that user step, by a decision table. So next time around, rather than having to ask the person, we've now generated rules from the machine learning. Further than just generating black box rules, we've converted those into a human readable and understandable decision table that's injected in the process, which allows you as an organization to look at the rules that have been inferred and possibly refine them by a person and everything else. So we're going to go through the whole process of showing you the application and also some of the future looking ways of working within these now. So at this point, I hand over to Micha, and we pray to the demo gods that everything works. And good luck, Micha. I hope all goes well.
Okay, so a lot of good introduction already done by Paul. Thanks for that. So now we will see whether we can keep up with what he was talking about. So what this is demo is all about is, as Paul mentioned, basically a real-world use case, but simplified for the demo reasons. So we don't have all the extended rules that you typically have specifically on the compliance level, but it shows you how the full Flowable platform can be leveraged into the engagement conversation platform. So what I'm going to do here, I'm logging in as Shane Bowen. So you should now see my screen. All right, the top left window, I'm logging in as Shane Bowen. Shane Bowen is basically a client advisor working at a bank, and he's connected to several of his high wealth clients that he wants to talk to, keep up conversation, make proposals, and then what we then see as a use case, also use structured case or structured process to do some work. On the bottom right-hand side, I'm going to log in as Annie Austin. Annie Austin is a client. Now, for simplicity of today's demo environment, I'm going to use a web client. So Annie is currently using a web client. You can think of that piece being integrated directly into the e-banking solution. So we have customers integrating Flowable Engage from a client side into their mobile banking app, e-banking app, Or as we heard from Paul, they might even use WeChat, Facebook, WhatsApp, their current existing third-party messenger app to connect to Flowable Engage. Now, as you can see in the history of Shane Bowen and Annie Austin, they already have some talk going on. They even shared some documents that they wanted to discuss. So you can do all that unstructured work. And of course, things like this might happen. Let's say Annie Austin talks to Shane something like, by the way, I just moved to a new location. And then Shane could basically pick it up and say, oh, nice. Should I start the address change process for you then? And here's where the interesting part comes in. So until now, that's just a regular chat. You know, from a technical perspective, scaling that up is an interesting part. I'm not going into that right now. But from a functional point of view, it's just, you know, a bit chat back and forth. Now, what Shane can actually do, he can use the chatbot, or what we call it the digital assistants, to help moving into a more structured way. So what I'm going to do is I'm saying, please, digital assistant, help me by starting a case. Now, this is all context aware. So the digital assistant is aware that I'm currently talking to Annie. She's a client. The digital assistant is even able to look up information in other systems like the core banking system, a CRM, or whatever, to find all the information. And he makes me a prediction of what might make sense in the current context. So I'm going to choose the address change model that I want to start for Annie Austin. So I'm going to start to use the address change model to let the digital assistant start a case for me. And the chatbot talks to me in my current conversation. As you can see, this is currently only visible to myself. And it started a new case, so I can switch there. We want to keep the case-based conversation out of that ongoing conversation that I have between my client and me as a client advisor. But we can also see that the digital assistant posted that address change request to Annie Austin as well. So here's the interesting part. We can let the chatbot also involve other people, even including our client, to the process. And my current setup is that, you know, high wealth clients, they're a bit lazy and they all delegate all their work to their client advisors, right? It's no difference in our conversation. As a digital assistant, I could have posted that structured form directly to my client, or asked those information through WeChat or WhatsApp. I say, hey, what's your new street? What's your new city you're moving into? But in our case, it was posted to the client advisor. Now I can say, hey, Annie, what is your new address there? So beside having the structured way, I can still use my unstructured means of communication between client and client advisors. I can say it's 28 in Moscow. Then I can pick it up and say, oh, Moscow is in Russia. I'm going to switch the country, which makes a huge difference from a compliance point of view. We're coming into that a bit later. So I'm going to pick that up and say, oh, I need the zip code as well. Let's say, what is the zip code? I can answer that question. Something like that. And fill it up. Now, when I'm done with all the current necessary information, I can continue and send that information, that structured information, back to the process through the digital assistant. Now, what we also see is that we can integrate with the existing third-party systems, like what I mentioned before, core banking system, CRM, wherever that data is, because it was looking up the current address of Annie Austin, which is in Germany, which is going to move to Russia. And I can confirm, or I could correct my information. I say that's cool, that's fine. Currently have all information. Now, even if I, as a client advisor, did provide all that information, we still want, from regulation point of view and audit point of view, have Annie Austin actually really confirm that information. To even make that a bit easier, we integrated Google Maps, just as an example. I also can blend in third-party content into the conversation, so that's pretty easy to be done. And Annie Austin can now confirm, yes, that's okay, or no, that's wrong. Say that's okay. Now, for now, the digital assistant will pick it up again, and we can see that it will come back to Annie Austin like, okay, I now have all the information. We'll come back to you if I need anything more. And we also see that there was a message posted to the client advisor, like saying, hey, Russia is actually a sensitive country according to our regulations. We need to forward this request to our compliance team. Now, the compliance officer is going to be Tim Lee. He's working in a more structured way. Let's say the digital assistant could actually bring in Tim into that specific conversation. That's one option. But to give you some more flavor, I'm going to log in as Tim Lee in my into Flowable platform, actually, where I see all my structured work. I see on my dashboard, I see my cases, tasks, and documents, and stuff like that. So I see I have one open task, which means check the client history. Now here, I'm working in my task related app on Flowable platform as a compliance officer. And I can see all the information that I need to make a decision whether it's okay to move, to let any move from Germany to Russia. I can see liquids, I can see asset on management, liabilities, everything that I need to know in order to make a decision. Now let me make that window a bit smaller so we can see what's going on once I finish the task. So I'm just going to say that that's okay. I'm going to approve the move. Again, this one is really simplified, so it has more questions obviously related to move from Germany to Russia. I'm going to approve that request, and once I did that, we will see that the process was moved any further, and that it was already communicated back to both the client directly, but also to my client advisor, that the address change was actually done. We can continue the relationship with the customer, and that we can actually keep Annie Austin as a client. Now, this is an interesting part of how we can actually integrate a digital assistant into an ongoing conversation. Now, let's look behind the scenes. How is that done? How we can do this? So we're going to log in as an administrator, so we can see a little bit behind the scenes. As Paul mentioned in the introduction, we saw, or he mentioned that we can use the chatbots or the digital assistant, which is based on a BPM process. That's what I'm going to show right away now. So I'm going to go to my design time environment, and I'm going to go into my address change app. I'm going to look up the process there. Going to designer, and what we can see here is it's an actual regular BPMN process that was used to drive the conversation between the case, or the process behind the case, and the conversation. So we see the different lanes. So we see the lane where we have the client, we have the client advisor, we have the compliance officer, we have user tasks, we have service tasks. So everything you probably know from a PPM platform that we can also use as part of a conversation. Now, the interesting part is this one here. So whenever we see a move into a sensitive country, we have to involve a compliance officer into the conversation to make a final approval step before we can actually approve the address change according from a regulation point of view. This is a regular user task. Now, next step, we are going to use machine learning. I actually prepared all the data with 200,000 cases, existing cases, to use machine learning to find patterns around the most interesting information, like assets, countries for sure, and some other information that might be driving that decision. So what I'm going to do now is going to look into what machine learning already detected. So we see now in our enhanced process application, that is a microservice from Flowable Analytics, backed by machine learning. So we were basically asynchronously constantly looking into patterns within data to find conditions that we could add as what we call a decision table. I'm going to show that just in a minute. So what you typically have in machine learning, sometimes it's kind of like a black box. The machine learns stuff and predicts stuff, but you don't know what that actually is. What we do, we use the decision trees or technical information that we get out of machine learning, and we convert it into a human readable decision table. And what I'm going to do by hitting apply, I'm going to apply those rules that have been learned by machine learning to our process dynamically. So I'm going to hit apply. And hopefully our machine learning will now have done something in my address change app. So let's see if we find it. So we see that we now have learned, just refresh. So I think that's the interesting fact. What we, or our approach is, we use the history of the data and what we learned from it with means of machine learning, but we do not just directly apply it, but we convert it into human readable form. In our case, it's a decision table based on the DMN standard that now we can use to look into from here and see how that machine learning changed or will now make a decision. As you can see, our microservice actually dynamically changed the process. It exchanged the user task by a machine learned DMN task, and we can even deep dive into it to see the machine learned table. Again, this one is very simplified. In the real world case where we use that one, we have something like 30 input variables that we take into consideration when doing the decision. And I also figured it out for just Russia as a country to simplify for the demo reasons. So now the machine learning was turned into a DMN table that we can see, okay, if we have, I don't care about the country that I'm coming from. If it's Russia and I don't have information like asset under management or free asset, I don't have that. Or if I come from Spain to Russia and so on. Now let's go back to our conversation and now see, as we have applied those changes dynamically, how would that case look like if we restart it? So I'm going to start the very same case, start case. I'm using the same address change case for Annie Austin. And so the first part is obviously the same. So I'm not going to ask Annie again for the address. I'm going to Russia, Red Square, really interesting address in Moscow. Again, I confirm. And of course, I'm also going to involve Annie Austin again. So I say, okay, show what I have to do. Now I'm seeing the red square in Russia. I'm going to confirm. And now the interesting part is, as we now have made that human task if we exchange it by machine learning, by a DMN-based decision task, you can see that we directly could finish the process without interaction of the compliance officer. Probably in real world, what you would have in between is something like you advise the compliance officer by saying, hey, according my machine learning or my past data, I would suggest to approve or decline because of this reason. But now for the demo to see where it can lead to, we even got bold and we exchanged that user task by a machine learned decision task. Now something also interesting is around natural language processing. Now, maybe as a client advisor, I would like the digital assistant to remind me tomorrow to send or to create a welcome card to Annie and send it to her new location. So in order to do that, I can use natural language to talk to my chatbot. I could do something like, remind me tomorrow morning at 9 to send a welcome letter to Annie. And then, as you can see, the digital assistant was processing my natural language and turned it again into something structured. Reminder, I can also do something like show me all my reminders. Then I will see currently I only have one. I could delete it, I could edit it, stuff like that. To make it a bit more interesting to see what happens when that kicks in, I could do something like remind me, and I can even use Annie and Annie Austin in 10 seconds to finish the demo, something like that. And we see that now I can not only remind myself, but I could also create a reminder for my client or a couple of my clients or whatever I want to do something. And the interesting part is that we also have natural language generation. So you can see that because I created the reminder, the digital assistant says, you asked me to remind you to finish the demo. Let's see what the digital assistant said to Annie. The digital assistant said, Shane Bowen asked me to remind you to finish the demo. Just a small difference, but it's really important to also know those small things when bringing digital assistants into a conversation. One last thing I want to show is also how you can involve people, like we saw Tim, which was involved by a structured process into a conversation through a user task. We can also do that by just saying, hey, I'm talking to Annie. Annie has a question on a compliance issue, and I can add Tim right away into my conversation. I could say, let me add Tim to the conversation. And again, the digital assistant reminds me, hey, this is an ongoing direct communication channel between you and Annie. You probably don't want to add Tim right into here, but I can start a topic for you, or I could schedule a meeting for you, the three of you to have a conversation. Say I want to start a topic, and then I could even say something like, hey, I want to give that topic some context. I want to reference some messages. I probably have, I don't know, those 3 messages that I want to reference in my new topic. I can say reference that. And then the digital assistant started a new topic, included Tim and Annie, referenced some past messages, and we can start this, that specific discussion around compliance. So that's how we can easily use chatbots or digital assistants to help you to do work for you, to add structure if needed, like we did with the address change process. And even you could integrate existing third-party systems. Let's say that I, as a client advisor, could do something like, show me the last 10 payments of Annie Austin, or show me the current balance sheet, or show me the current portfolio overview, or I want to start a rebalancing, or whatever you want to do. You can do that out of a really natural way, part of a conversation. All right, so that was just a small glimpse into what you can do with Flowable Engage based on Flowable platform. And I would now like to open up questions. If there are any questions, please start asking them. And I think they're going to be queued up and we can answer them. Right? You want to switch? Yeah, perfect.
So people can ask questions online here now, but otherwise, if people want to contact us more directly and we'll have, think of questions later on, then there's a couple of email addresses that hopefully you can see on your screen now, paul@flowable.com or Micha@flowable.com. Feel free to follow up with us for anything we've talked about, if there's anything more that you would like to ask. See if we've got some questions that are coming in, so I can see some questions are coming in. There's a question here around healthcare as to whether you're able to pull in protected health information with the appropriate security. And Micha, I think you can probably answer that from the point of view of I don't believe we have any healthcare customers currently with this. I know we've got it in trial in a couple of places, but it's very similar. So I'll pass it over to you.
Yeah, I can probably pick that up because it's from a security point of view or privacy point of view, it's pretty much the same. Like we already have use cases in place at financial institutions where you have all that as enhanced security around CI, client information, or client identifying information or data. And to make the answer short, yes, we can actually pull in data information with having that security in mind. What we also do, it depends on the channel actually. So for instance, if you want to expose data to a third-party messenger like WhatsApp or WeChat, you might need to have a waiver signed by clients before doing so, or it's limited. So that's all part of the configuration of Flowable Engage. And that's the huge difference between existing, let's say, chat solutions out there and something like Flowable Engage based on the platform from a permission and security point of view. We always take the same security, same permissions into place, what we also have in regular processes, other healthcare institution, financial institution, the bank, whatever you have in there. And we can even distinguish what is available on which channel. So for instance, as a client advisor, I might see more data that I can pull through the digital assistant from my core banking system or from this kind of health information, but it cannot be leave the premises. So for instance, cannot leave and be posted to WeChat or WhatsApp, and that's fine. So we can distinguish between content that needs protection and content that has not that same security options. So I hope that answers.
We've got a follow-on question around integrating payment options for something like balance resolution during a customer engagement. And the banking context, again, I know we've got some integrations that are probably relevant here. So again, Micha, with you.
Yeah, so we currently have customers doing several things here. One is the order placement, so meaning that clients can use the conversation to actually place an order. That depends a bit on regulation, actually. So it depends, for instance, we had to go through an approval by local regulations. One was in Switzerland, but it was, for instance, it was approved that a client was again with a waiver signed at onboarding to be able to even use Touch ID to approve a payment done through a conversation. We have another use case where you can directly talk to the trading desk for again VIP clients, I would call them, or high wealth clients, that they have a channel directly into the trading desk. This is a bit different than a one-to-one conversation, but that's also out of the box functionality of Flowable Engage. It allows you to set up desks where they are backed by a team of people. And when a new request is coming in, they can be picked up by a team member, and then you can communicate with the client. In one of our customers' case, that was by directly let them doing live trading inside of a conversation. Again, this applies certain local regulation that needs to be taken into account. From a technical point of view, that's another thing that we already did. And again, because we have an underlying processing and case management platform, we even integrated directly with the core banking system. So when you entered a new payment or a trade, a foreign exchange, whatever it was, on a conversation, the digital assistant might ask you several information which is needed, and then it will be placed directly on the core banking system through a service task. So you can go as full integration between a client interactive conversation back into third-party systems like core banking.
Thank you. We've also got another question here, a different topic around the digital assistant. Can it be trained with custom business terminologies and how open it is to be configured with external chat clients? So I think, you know, as we showed in terms of defining digital assistants, you can use the process definition to do that. So you can define exactly what interactions used, and Flowable as a BPM case management platform is multilingual, supports, you know, different languages and things like this. So in terms of the interactions, the formal interactions, like the address change that we saw, that can happen in different languages. And in terms of integrating with external chat clients, we've got integrations with some of the customers now with Facebook Messenger, with WeChat, where they have formal supported APIs. We do have some informal integrations with other chat applications where they don't have formal public APIs yet, but and are working with a number of the well-known chat clients with some of our global customers to help move that forward to being fully supported interactions there. Again, Micha, I don't know if there's anything particularly you would want to add to that.
Yeah, but probably something concerning the different types of clients. We were today in the demo we were showing the web client. Again, there's also native mobile client available from Flowable Engage. Also an SDK which can be integrated into a known mobile app of the customer itself to enrich with the capabilities of real-time conversations. And it depends on those capabilities. So when we talk about external chat clients like WeChat or WhatsApp or Facebook, they have different capabilities. So for instance, the Facebook Messenger supports to send buttons to get decisions. It's not supported by WhatsApp or WeChat, for instance. And we take that, so the digital assistant is smart when we need an answer from a client, we take the channel into account. So if it's, let's say, WeChat, we make, hey, please can you type in yes or no to approve or decline the request? Or if it's Facebook, we actually send 2 buttons, approve or decline. Well, that's how we deal with those differences of those external chat clients. I see there's another one, according media support, question, according media support. Do we support media like document exchange and voice and so on? And again, here's it's more or less the same result or same answer like with the external chat client capabilities. So it's not supported for all of those. Internally, we support document sharing within a conversation, voice and video messages as well. And we also have integrated that with, for instance, WeChat. So you can also send the voice message in WeChat and it ends up in Flowable Engage and vice versa. The same for images, for instance, or documents.
We're very close to the hour, so I think we wanted to draw to a close. There is I can see one other question which I think we get asked often, which is Flowable Engage available in the cloud? And always when people say in the cloud, we're never quite sure what they mean. So to be really clear, Flowable Engage is not currently available as a SaaS offering. It's something which you would have to you put in your own environment. Now, that environment could be your own hardware, but it can also be hosted on Amazon or Azure or whatever. So many of our customers are running Flowable Engage within virtualized environments or on things like AWS. So it can run in cloud infrastructures, very friendly to cloud infrastructures, but there isn't currently a cloud offering as a service. So I think with the time running to a close, as I say, the emails are there. If there's questions we haven't got to yet because of time, then do please feel free to follow up with us. And thank you very much for joining with us, and we look forward to talking with you more when we continue our series of webinars around what we're doing at Flowable. So thanks very much again, and hopefully get in contact soon.
Goodbye. Thanks for joining.